All right, let's talk about the Portuguese present subjunctive. If that phrase makes you a little nervous, don't worry. You are definitely not alone. It can feel like a huge hurdle, but today we're going to crack the code and break it down into a simple system that actually makes a ton of sense. So, first things first, let's get our heads around what the subjunctive even is. It's not really a tense like past or future. It's better to think of it as a mood. It's the mood you use for things that are uncertain, for possibilities, for wishes, the whole world of what if. Okay, check this out. On the left, we've got a sentence about certainty. I will probably stay home. But on the right, we're talking about possibility. It is likely that I stay home. The meaning is basically identical, right? But look at the verb. How did ficaré become fique? That's the big question, isn't it? Why does that verb suddenly change its shape? This little switch is the entire secret to the subjunctive. And I promise you, by the time we're done here, it's going to seem completely logical. So, let's get right into the mechanics. I want you to forget about complicated grammar charts for a minute, because there's a ridiculously simple 3-step formula that lets you form the subjunctive for almost any regular verb. Here it is. It's almost like a recipe. Seriously. Step 1, you grab the I form of a verb, like follow for I speak. Step 2, you just chop off that final O at the end. And step 3, you stick on what we call the opposite ending. And what's an opposite ending? Well, it's just this clever little swap. For verbs that end in R, you're going to use the E endings. And for verbs that end in ER or IR, you guessed it, you're going to use the A endings. So follow becomes fale, and como becomes coma. See? It's just a simple switcheroo. Okay, so we know how to make the verb, but the million-dollar question is, when do you use it? This is where the real magic is. You don't just use the subjunctive whenever you want. You need a signal. You need a trigger. And the most common triggers are these things called impersonal expressions. The best way to think of them is like little flashing signs in a sentence that scream, hey, what's coming up is uncertain, so you gotta switch to the subjunctive mood. They're literally the key that unlocks this whole thing. Here's some of the heavy hitters you'll see all the time. Phrases like é possível que, or é bom que, or é importante que. The moment you see one of these, a little bell should go off in your head telling you the subjunctive is probably coming right up. Okay, theory is one thing, but let's see how this works out in the wild. We're going to look at a few real sentences so you can see this trigger plus subjunctive pattern in action. Take a look at this one. We've got our trigger, é bom que, and what comes next? Not the regular present tense chegam, but cheguem, the subjunctive. It's a direct result of that trigger phrase. Here we go again. See the trigger? É importante que. And what does it cause? The verb ler becomes leiam. You're seeing the pattern now, right? Trigger, then subjunctive. It's that simple. And another one. That trigger, é necessário que, basically forces the verb aprender to morph into its subjunctive form, aprenda. It's a really consistent cause and effect relationship. Let's do one last one to really lock it in. É provável que, that phrase signals we're not totally sure if he'll be late, and because of that uncertainty, the verb has to be atrase. Once you see this connection, I'm telling you, you'll start spotting it everywhere. All right. Now it's your turn. We've got the formula and we know the triggers, so let's put it all together and actually transform some sentences. This is where this all stops being just information and starts becoming a real skill you can use. Okay, here's our starting point. Probably, they will win the game. It's a pretty straightforward sentence, just talking about what's likely to happen using the future tense. So here's the challenge. How would you rewrite that sentence using our new subjunctive trigger, é provável que? Think about the verb ganhar. Remember our 3-step formula? What do you think will happen? And there you have it. É provável que eles ganhem o jogo. That trigger phrase works its magic, and ganharam becomes ganhem. You're expressing the same basic idea, but now you're doing it with way more grammatical flair. Awesome. Let's do one more, just to make sure it really sticks. The original sentence is, she needs to rest more. A simple, direct statement of need.
Okay, so how do we rephrase this one using the trigger é necessário que? What's going to happen to that verb descansar when it comes after that trigger?
Perfect. É necessário que ela descanse mais. The impersonal expression of necessity flips the verb right into the subjunctive. That's the core pattern, right there.
So that's really the whole system. Find the trigger, apply the formula, you now have the key to express this whole other world of nuance, of possibility, and of desire in Portuguese. So the real question is, now that you have this key, What new conversations and ideas will unlock for you?